Recently, Robert Downey Jr. has he's on the awards campaign trail right now. So he is doing his interviews for Oppenheimer and stuff like that. And recently he got on who is this? Lowe. Robert Lowe. Is it? Jesus, I forget the dude's name. Rob Lowe's. Yeah, Rob Lowe's podcast. And they had some conversations about a couple things. It was a pretty good interview. But there were two things that he talked about that I thought were pretty interesting. And one of those things that he talked about was Marvel related stuff, right? Like it's kind of hard to talk about Robert Downey Jr. and not talk about Iron Man. I mean, he was doing that for like 10, 11 years, and it was something that jump started this man's career after he was on rock bottom, hitting rock bottom, coming out of jail, having all these issues and stuff. And this was a definite rebound for this man, for him. So anyway, during the interview, he talked about his time as Iron Man. And he said here, now while this interview was happening, so let me do that first. While this interview was happening, his phone goes off. And I'm gonna tell you, like, let's kind of go through what happens here. So Rob Lowe, as his phone goes off, Downey's phone, Rob Lowe says, "Is that some Marvel stuff? Are you going to break some stories here?" And Downey said, "Not just yet." Now wait a minute, sir. Now wait a minute. Now one of the biggest, hottest rumors for a long time has been, is Robert Downey Jr. going to come back as Iron Man? We have the perfect setup to do this, and that would be in Avengers Secret Wars. That's where you have the multiverse, and you can have all different types of, you could have 15 different Robert Downeys if you want. And we also heard the report that Kevin Feige was like, "Nah, we're not gonna, erase this. We're not gonna erase what he did in Endgame in any way, shape, or form." Now, personally, I still call cap, because I'm like, if it's multiverse, it does not erase what the 616 did. If you bring in the 834 Tony Stark, that's not erasing. We still remember. Like, audiences are sophisticated enough to know our 616 Tony Stark died saving the universe. That's not gonna go away. That's not undone when you bring. First of all, you spent like 2-3 years telling us that there's a whole multiverse and all these other versions. Like, we can get that. But anyway, so the fact that my man said not yet, I'm not saying that was a full thing. I'm just saying, like, anything is possible. We also didn't think Hugh Jackman was going to come back either, but look at him. Okay. So anyway, he says, Rob Lowe says here that he was going to answer the phone for him if it was Marvel. He says, "I know what your deal is. Here's what you do. You go, Marvel, I'll come back and I'll play Tony Stark for you guys again, since you messed everything up. But I want a gazillion dollars. I know what that number should be, and I want first dollar gross of every ensuing movie. That's what I would do." And Robert Downey was like, "Yeah, man, that sounds kind of hostile." Now here's the thing, in case y'all forgot, Robert Downey is paid. This man got Tony Stark money for real when it comes to Avengers films. In case you did not know, Robert Downey was paid only a couple $100,000 for the first Iron Man movie. But everything after that, this man put it in his contract. I want a piece of all those Avengers movies. Anything with Avengers in it and anything after, I need a piece of the box office. And Avengers made $1 billion. Avengers Age of Ultron made $1.5 billion. And when those movies was doing well and Robert Downey was becoming the face of Marvel for a long time, they had to pay that man when Iron Man came out. For them individual Iron Man movies, he was making a good couple tens of millions of dollars per movie. And then when Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, this man walked away after all them movies. I think it was like, what, $375, $400 million that he made just off of that. I think he made like $10 million for like 5 minutes showing up in Spider-Man Homecoming. He's fine. This man is fine. Okay. Financially, he's good. But yes, Rob Lowe is not wrong. If he even shows an eyelash in Avengers Secret Wars, they got to pay that man. That man has got to be paid. Okay. They have to. So, but he did say something else, because y'all remember after he played Iron Man, he went off to do other movies, right? He went off to do things like Doolittle, which I don't think y'all saw that movie. I didn't. And it got critically panned. It did not make it flopped in the box office. It did not do very well. In other words, a lot of the things that Downey was doing outside of the MCU did not go over very well. Now, he was fantastic in Oppenheimer. He was great. He should win an award for what he did in Oppenheimer. But Doolittle was not it. But he said this though. He said, after Doolittle, I felt so exposed after being in the cocoon of Marvel, where I think I did some of the best work I will ever do. But it went a little bit unnoticed because of the genre. I did myself a favor because the rug was pulled so definitively out from underneath me and all the things that I was leaning on, as opposed to what my understanding of confidence and security was. Boy, did they evaporate, and it rendered me teachable. I love that. Like the same way I told y'all, I love when actors are able to recognize when their stuff is trash. I love even more that he found a humbling experience in this and was like, you know what? I can be better. And he was better. And I also agree, and it's sad that he did do some of his best work in Marvel. Whether you like the movie or not, Iron Man 3, Downey was doing some really good acting. Like he was really, really good as a performer in Iron Man 3. So like and yeah, there is that genre discrimination. Like nobody was, people was hating on comic book superhero movies, so nobody wanted to pay attention to awarding that type of stuff. But I mean, I think we noticed. I noticed, I'm like, yeah, Robert Downey, yeah. If I looked at your body of work, you as Iron Man, that was it. That was it. But in this same interview, he also goes on to talk about his famous role in Tropic Thunder. Now, if you have not seen Tropic Thunder, I don't know what to tell you, because Tropic Thunder was probably one of the funniest movies during that time frame. And Downey's role in Tropic Thunder is easily one of the best performances in all comedy history. Like, it has to go down all time. Has to. Not saying it's the best. I'm saying if we're making a list, it better be on that list. But of course, there has been all this new controversy. There was no controversy at the time, but there's been new controversy about people, who are woke, and they're just now seeing Tropic Thunder. And of course, there's all this retro pushback of like, oh my gosh, he was in blackface. That's so racist. Oh my gosh, Robert Downey, we got to cancel him. Cancel. So he actually addressed this and talked about his perspective with all this supposed backlash. And it says here, the Iron Man star in Tropic Thunder, he starred as an egotistical Australian thespian who takes method acting to an extreme by undergoing pigmentation alteration surgery to darken his skin in order to play a black soldier in a war movie. Now, he said, I was looking back at All in the Family, the TV series, and they had a little disclaimer that they were running at the beginning of the show. Now, for those of you that don't know, All in the Family was an old school show back in 60s, maybe 70s. And they used to deal with a lot. Shout out to Norman Lear. They used to deal with a lot of controversial issues. They used to deal with race, gender, politics. They used to go in very, very controversial territory. But they still managed to do it from a comedic standpoint. So just so you know. Now it says here the program, the disclaimer was that the program you're about to see is All in the Family. It seeks to throw a humor spotlight on our frailties, prejudices, and concerns by making them a source of laughter. We hope to show in a mature fashion just how absurd they are. So, Downey goes on to say the language was saying, hey, this is the reason that we're doing these things that in a vacuum, you could pick apart and say they are wrong and bad. They are used to be an understanding with an audience. And I'm not saying that the audience is no longer understanding. I'm saying things have gotten very muddied. The spirit that Ben Stiller directed and cast and shot Tropic Thunder was essentially as railing against all these tropes that are not right, and that had been perpetuated for too long. He goes on to say here, Ben Stiller knew exactly what the vision was for this. He executed it. It was impossible to not have it be an offensive nightmare of a movie. And 90% of my black friends were like, dude, that was great. I can't disagree with the other 10%, but I know where my heart lies. In my defense, Tropic Thunder is about how wrong Blackface is, so I take exception. Robert Downey Jr. and his portrayal of blackface in Tropic Thunder is absolutely acceptable. And what comes to mind is, yes, as he said, if you look at it in a vacuum, like all you see is him dressed up in blackface, that would be wrong. But that's not what's happening here. What does happen here is that he's actually doing satire to show how wrong it really is. And he's poking fun at the people that are not aware of how wrong it really is. It reminds me, it's not the same, but it reminds me of the controversy with Pepe Le Pew, right? Pepe Le Pew from Looney Tunes, you remember he used to be out there chasing the black cat with the stripe on him. And Pepe Le Pew was a sexual assaulter. Okay. He harassed and he assaulted constantly. And being kids, I mean, we didn't know any better. We laughed at it. We were like, ha ha ha, that stinky skunk. He's at it again. Pepe Le Pew did not know the meaning of no. Pepe Le Pew did not know the meaning of consent. Now, that was problematic because there were never any actual consequences to let us know that his behavior was actually not okay. Now let's kind of bring it back to, let's say, Johnny Bravo. Y'all remember? Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo was just like Pepe Le Pew. Johnny Bravo would chase after a lot of these all these girls or whatever, and chase them, harass them, and all this stuff. But guess what? Johnny Bravo always got smacked, got rejected, got declined, and it let us know, even though Johnny is this hornball, there are consequences because his behavior was not acceptable. So nobody grew up thinking, I got to be like Johnny Bravo, because clearly you got the message that his actions were not okay. And this is the same thing or similar vein that happened with Robert Downey's portrayal of a white Australian actor in blackface. And let's not act as though there are not real actors in Hollywood that are not minorities that will sit here and don blackface, or they will do certain cultural things in a very insensitive way and be completely oblivious about it. Gods of Egypt. There are certain actors and executives and directors that will do certain things and whitewash cultural stuff and say, but it's just acting. What's the big deal? And that's what Robert Downey's character was making fun of. He was that actor that would be blackface and be like, what's the big deal? He was that actor that would do something culturally incredibly insensitive and act like, what's the big deal? Huh? What you mean, you people? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like this double entendre of a joke, and it landed. So listen, I know he brought up the whole black friends thing. I'll be part of that 90%. I'd be like, excuse me, Mr. Robert Downey Jr., you did nothing wrong. Ben Stiller's stuff was brilliant. If it was, in my opinion, that might be the only acceptable way or acceptable case of blackface that I've ever seen. And you know what, sir? You ain't coming to the cookout, but you're going to get a to-go plate. You're going to get yo, put that plate in the foil and somebody send it out. You ain't got to stand at the front door. You sit and wait in your car. You sit and wait in your car, and we're going to send a plate out to you. Okay? Because what you did was great, and I'm glad that it was directed not to black folks. It was directed to the white folks that don't understand why blackface was bad. So yes, you did just fine, sir. Just fine. Anyway, what do y'all think about Robert Downey Jr.'s interview? What did you make about his comments about being Iron Man and the whole thing being neglected? What did you think about his comments about playing a very controversial character? Whatever you think, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.